Well, hello everyone. My name is Brad Meehan and I'm the Managing Director of Strativity Group. And it's great to have some time with you this morning to talk about the evolution of customer centricity. Just a bit of background on Strativity before I start. I've been leading the business in Australia and New Zealand for 10 years now, but we've been operating for 20 years globally. We've worked in over 40 countries, completed well over 600 projects, created billions of dollars worth of value, and we've just put together our 100th case study. We work across a wide range of sectors, and there's some well-known brands here, but we spend about 50-50 in terms of B2C and B2B environments. And a lot of our work is really focused on helping organisations build a vision for their experience for the future, one that's going to give them competitive advantage and commercial value creation or deliver on their purpose, and also helping them uplift capability and really get this mindset piece right around customer centricity. And that's what I'm going to talk through today. We're very proud of the fact that in 2019, Forrester Research looked at a number of CX consulting practices all over the world and actually rated Strativity as the leading boutique provider in the world. And that's a real testament to the thought leadership of our team and also the impact that we've been able to deliver for our clients. So a picture of an iceberg, which does come up a bit in these sort of keynote presentations, but I thought it was particularly apt for this topic. A lot of the focus on customer experience improvement or innovation is obviously around that front stage piece. How do we enhance the experience our customers are having? And if we do that, we create value. But what a lot of leaders don't realize is that every decision an organization makes really comes together to deliver on the experience that their customers have. And deep into the bowels of the organization, when you think about practices, policies, and decision-making, there's usually an internal or a process or a product orientation. And that orientation has a way of diminishing the experience that could be delivered. So a lot of the work we do at Strativity is helping organizations craft that sort of strategic design of their experience, but go far deeper and really look at the organization itself, how decisions are made, how we recruit people in, the metrics we use to drive performance, the way we collaborate, the practices, policies, and the decision-making processes to understand where we could uplift and really put the customer at the heart of everything that we do. And that's what this talk today is about. So there's been a bit of an evolution in regards to customer centricity, and it's a topic quite close to my heart. Around 15 years ago, when I was consulting in this space for the first time, I used to talk to CEOs and leaders about this concept of if we truly put customer value at the heart of everything we do organizationally, we almost can't help but deliver great experiences that differentiate us and create value. But I think at that time, it was a bridge too far for some. It was a bit of a conceptual leap. But these days, it's a little bit easier in having these conversations. And customer centricity is certainly in a lot of strategic plans. In fact, it's probably a little bit overused as a term. I want to just talk about the evolution, but so if we go back maybe 10 years, this sort of customer centricity 1.0, as we frame it up, it was when organizations started to recognize that they need to balance sort of an internal orientation with a deliberate customer or external orientation. So there was a recognition that organizations do compete on experience. And it's not just about product, price, distribution, and certain elements of the service offering, but there's a holistic experience that comes into play, and it's a field for competitive advantage if we can get it right. There was a focus on customer listening and feedback. So lots of organizations starting to implement voice of customer programs. And in essence, it was kind of moving from an annual or a 6-monthly SAT survey to something a little more dynamic. There was an understanding of the power of empathy. If we really understand our customers at a deep and human level, we can start to design propositions and experiences that create value. It's a way of tapping, I guess, knowledge to drive innovation. There was starting to be the design of some selected experiences and processes, that sort of human-centered design methodology where we empathize with customers, we're intentional about what we want to deliver, and we start to think about front stage and backstage a little. There was a lot of cultural awareness and cues, posters and workshops on putting the customer at the heart. But if we're honest, I think there was still a very siloed approach in how this was done. And it was probably driven a bit more out of marketing and customer facing teams than right through the organization. As we sort of transition to customer centricity 2.0, this is maybe 5 years ago. So organizations start to be deliberately insight driven in terms of strategy. And this idea of combining qualitative or subjective or empathetic insight with data to build strategy really starts to come to the fore. There's strategic experience design. And what I mean by this is we think about corporate goals. We think about our brand and our promise and what's authentic. We look at the value proposition we're trying to deliver. We feed in insight from customer in terms of motivation and what drives positive experiences and advocacy. And we bring that together to intentionally design experiences at a macro level and then sort of drilling into different journeys. Some organizations even start adjusting their operating model, and they start to think, well, if we want to deliver that sort of experience, how do we best enable it? And this drives an assessment of practices and policies and metrics, as I said before, trying to identify where we're internally orientated versus customer orientated. There are value accretive programs that reinforce belief. So there's instances where we've improved an experience and we can see the behavior of customers has changed, and we're able to quantify the value that was created. We're basically starting to build that link between the experience we deliver, the perception of the customer, their behavior, and the sort of margins and profitability associated with that behavior. So because of some longitudinal studies or having voice of customer programs in place and mixing that with transactional data, we're able to sort of model this up. And as we start to demonstrate value, we start to get greater belief at that executive level. There's some focus on governance, and there is more of an organization-wide approach. There's a recognition that this is not sort of one or two functions, but it's a cross-organizational initiative. So where to from here? If I think about this concept of customer centricity 3.0, there are some things that do make it quite different. What we're starting to see now is a full activation of strategic experience design. So in this sort of 2.0 environment, there's a lot of brilliant design work and there's PowerPoint decks floating everywhere, but it doesn't impact the experience delivered on a day-by-day basis, perhaps as much as it could or should. So this full activation piece is we really start thinking about what experience we're trying to deliver, the memory we're trying to create, the emotion we're trying to anchor it to, and we spend time with our employees and with our design teams and with our tech teams talking about how we deliberately create these memories and anchor them with these emotions. We recognize the importance of mindset shift. This is not all about practices and policies and business case stage gates. It's really about the way we make decisions. I would argue that the experience an organization delivers is nothing more than the sum total of all the decisions that all the leaders and employees in that organization make. And when you think about it in those terms, suddenly mindset, psychology, and the way we make those decisions is very important. There's full operating model alignment. So if we think about a corporate goal, we want to achieve X, deliver on our purpose, or hit a certain target in terms of market share or revenue growth or profitability. The way we do that is through delivering experiences and propositions that are compelling and that drive advocacy, repeat usage, etc. Now, if we're going to use that as the anchor point, it sort of makes sense to align our operating model around that intent. So a lot of operating model revision and redesign work over the last 40, 50 years has been about cost out and process improvement. But what's happening in this era of customer centricity 3.0 is we've got organizations who recognize that delivering this outstanding proposition and experience consistently is what's going to create value. Therefore, we need to align our operating model and our structure to execute on that. And it's a real different way of thinking, but it creates an awful lot of value. There are continuous insight feeds, rapid adaptation of strategy and propositions and experience creation. So the idea is we're taking customer listening to a new level. There are constant insights in terms of motivations and decisioning. There is feedback and information we get right across the journey. And we use that to tweak our strategy on an ongoing basis to respond operationally to issues that we come across, and also to infuse this idea of customer orientation into the culture. We have complete experience visibility, which helps to optimize operations. And we're starting to nuance experiences based on in-moment and attitudinal segmentation. So this idea of in-moment segmentation recognizes the fact that the same customer has different mindsets in different instances. So if you're busy like me and you turn up to a retail bank and you want to do something very quickly, you're probably frustrated that you have to even come into the branch. And when you meet the person behind the desk there, they can ask you, how's your day going? And you're probably going to say good. But an organisation that's cottoned on to in-moment segmentation is going to say, well, what type of day are you having? And when I say I'm busy, they say, well, let's work on speed. I want to get this done for you straight away. And they decrease my anxiety and they meet me where I'm at. Likewise, if I say, look, I'm just pottering around waiting to pick up the kids from soccer, I've got a couple of hours, so I thought I'd pop in. They might say, well, maybe there's an opportunity to have a chat about your accounts. We can make sure you've got the best products for your needs. This idea of identifying the mindset of the customer and nuancing the experience, I think, has a lot of value, and it's undercooked by a lot of organisations at present. The idea of attitudinal segmentation is probably more common, where we're looking to understand people's thoughts and beliefs and what motivates them and their sort of attitudes, and using that as a way of adapting the type of experience we deliver for them. So this idea of nuanced experiences coming down from your sort of macro experience is a real key part of Customer Centricity 3.0. And it takes a bit to operationalize, takes a bit to think through what they should be, but then it takes a bit to really drive the behavior change in an organization that allows you to consistently do that. From a culture point of view, we're starting to really ingrain this idea of customer-orientated decisioning. And we've got deliberate decisions. What I mean by that is, before just deciding to do something, we pause and we ask, what insight from customers have we used to inform our thinking? Is this decision going to move us towards or away from our target experience? If we were to tell all customers today we've just made this decision, do we feel more proud or more embarrassed? These are great questions to ask yourself at every level of the organization before making a decision to sort of infuse that customer perspective in. And what's happening in Customer Centricity 3.0 is there's an acceptance that being customer-centric helps us deliver better experiences, and that helps us achieve competitive advantage and create value. So we spend less time selling the concept of why we should be customer-centric rather, and more time getting on with making it happen. There's a number of ways where the thinking is quite different as well. In a traditional organisation, we almost start with, we want to achieve X, how do we make that happen? As organisations mature in their sort of thinking around customer orientation, it sort of inverses the way you play this out. You start thinking about mindset and beliefs at the start. So in terms of mindset and beliefs, what are the mindsets we currently have? And what are the mindsets we need to support exceptional experience delivery? What do we believe in our organisation? Are there things that are holding us back? So for example, we worked with a large university and they brought us in and said, for a couple of years, we've invested an awful lot in analysis, research, design, and change programs to move the dial on student satisfaction. We recognise the link between student satisfaction and advocacy and propensity to enrol in additional courses, et cetera, and the alumni benefit too, of course. But we haven't been able to move the dial. Can you tell us why? We started working through a discovery process. We looked at a few documents, but what we really wanted to do is talk to people. This organisation had thousands of employees. We wanted to understand how they thought. Within the first 10 minutes of the first workshop, the problem was quite obvious. These phrases slipped into the conversation. Number one was, we're not here to hold students' hands, of course. And number two was, we're a very prestigious university, one of the best in the world. If I'm honest about it, they're lucky to be here. So you had an executive team that were trying to drive consistently excellent experiences to deliver on their strategy. But you had a large number of employees who believed it wasn't their job to really help customers. It was their job for students to navigate the institution. And we think they're lucky to even be our customers. And those kind of beliefs are going to hold any organization back. So one of the key questions for everyone today is, what are the underlying beliefs that may be impeding our strategic success? So in Customer Centricity 3.0, we start with mindset and beliefs, and we recognize they're the foundation for behavior and action. We then look at practices and policies. Where do we deliberately infuse customer perspective and a focus on exceptional experience into our business, and where do we not? Where are metrics misaligned and where are our processes not really driving us in the right direction? And if we get mindset and belief and practices and policies right, we start to inform or change our culture and the ways of working. This then leads to enhanced organizational capability, which is the bedrock for exceptional experience delivery. And remember, that exceptional experience delivery is starting to get quite segmented and nuanced. And there's that real focus on creating memories and eliciting emotions. I can't overstate how important it is to keep that focus on memory and emotion above all. We worked with a life insurance company, and when someone rang up and said they've been diagnosed with something that could be life-threatening, the third most common response was, "That's great, can I grab your account number, please?" Now, the reason that's the case is not because people were evil. It's because most humans in a work environment default to a process and task orientation. And when they're in a process and task orientation and someone presents them with a process or task they can complete, they say, "Great, let's get started." They want to do the right thing. Unfortunately, as we can all appreciate, this doesn't come off in the best way to the customer. So what we did is we took the group of frontline employees and we spent a few hours with them, and we showed them some video clips and talked to them about what it feels like to be diagnosed with something that could take your life. And this gave them real connection and empathy and understanding. And then we said to them, well, look, if you're in that situation, now that you can appreciate how it might feel, what would you want when you rang in? What's the memory you'd want to hang up that phone with? And after thinking about it for a while, the memory we decided on was, they actually care about me. And we talked about the kind of emotion that you'd want to feel as you hang up the phone. And they said, well, the emotion I'd want to feel is confidence. So we then said, okay, put aside KPIs, etc. When you go back to the phone and people call up, what we want you to do in your own way is create the memory, they really care about me, and elicit the emotion of confidence. And without any scripting or any further policy or process adjustments, everyone went back with a different mindset. And when someone rang up with that particular situation, I've been diagnosed with something, I might need to start a sort of a claim, the words that came out of the frontline employees' mouths were just totally different. Instead of, can I grab your account number, it's, I'm so sorry to hear that. I can't even imagine what you must be going through. Your head must be spinning. Just so you know, I've been here a long time. I'm going to make sure this goes really well for you. Is there a support person you want on this call, or would you like me to ring you back later at a time that's better? Because this is going to take it at least sort of 20 minutes, half an hour to go through. Now, you can't script that. But what's happened is this frontline employee is focused on creating a particular memory and eliciting a particular emotion. As a result of that, their behavior changes. So Customer Centricity 3.0 is really about providing the framework and the structures that enable that type of experience. And this is what then delivers competitive advantage and helps organizations achieve their strategic goals. There's an employee challenge and there's a customer challenge. And this is a core recognition that sort of shifted a bit over the last decade. If I want to take a differentiated promise, which is my value prop, and deliver it consistently, I need to engage employees. They need to believe in what we're doing. They need to understand their role. They need to know how, and they need to have the tools and authority to do that. And once I've got employees engaged, then I can inspire customers to want to engage with us, and I can demonstrate that the promise comes to life every time they're dealing with us. So this recognition that I'm dealing with an employee challenge and a customer challenge simultaneously is very important. And what we're really trying to do, I guess, at the heart of it is align organizational purpose with individual purpose. So from an organizational point of view, I want to understand our promise. I want to share it with our customers and employees. I want to give a vision and a strategy that's compelling and provide a platform to deliver it. From an individual point of view, I want them to bring their passion. I want them to be motivated to do the best they can, whatever their role, whether they're back office or front stage. We talk at Strativity about everyone in your business either creates an experience or enables an experience. We need passion and motivation from both sort of groups of people. And we need to give them the ability to practice. We need to talk about what an exceptional experience could look like, the difference between good and exceptional, so that people really get it. And we need to talk about that across everyday scenarios all over the business and get people to practice and really have the confidence to execute. So this alignment of individual purpose and organizational purpose is really critical, and something that probably most organizations can pay a bit more attention to, because if you get that right, you find that there's this intrinsic motivation and this passion that often comes through the customer experience. Decision-making is important. And I mentioned before that the experience you deliver is the sum total of every decision that every employee makes, but some decisions are more important than others. So having a think about that sort of ELT level, the way we make decisions, where we might be internally or process or compliance or product orientated versus customer orientated, and what are the deliberate things we're going to do to shift the way we make decisions is really critical. We are competing in an experience economy, there is no doubt. And many organizations have recognized that an integrated experience strategy is required. So we have our goals, we understand our brand, and we've assessed market opportunities. We then have these sort of front stage and backstage considerations. From a front stage point of view, we need to know customers, understand the current experience, and define the future experience. From a backstage point of view, we need to assess how customer-centric we are today. We need to understand the mindset and the beliefs that could be holding us back, and we need to align our operating model to execute on our target experience. When we do this, the experience strategy impacts how we engage through different channels and impacts the kind of supporting capabilities that we have or need to support that engagement. This in turn creates specific memories and anchors those memories in emotions. And once we do that, we actually enable our corporate goals. So understanding how the experience economy works and how it should impact our strategy and our change programs and the way we activate the sort of target experience through the business is really important. And linking memory and emotion creation through to profitability or purpose achievement is critical. And the more we do that, the more senior executives and leaders of our organizations believe in this relationship and this ecosystem, and that helps us to deliver better outcomes for our employees, customers, and stakeholders. So many organizations these days are quite clear on their target experience. They engage the business to show them what good looks like and what exceptional looks like, so that everyone can strive to exceptional. And they use this to then adjust decision-making, mindset, specific processes, and their operating model. It's really about human psychology. And at Strativity, we're big fans of using behavioral economics and a deep understanding of how humans work to work out the best way to drive change within an organization and to deliver that memory and emotion to a customer that's going to create long-term value for our firm or help us deliver on our purpose if we're a government organization or a not-for-profit. Just to end with a story, we worked with a very successful retail group a number of years ago, and we started by assessing customer centricity and talking about all the changes the organization could make to enable better experiences. And this organization realized that better experiences based sort of linked to a more intimate understanding of customer needs was going to protect them competitively. So they bought into the concept, but they needed some help to assess and improve customer orientation. A few years later, I was talking to one of the exec team members and they said, Brad, you wouldn't believe how stark the difference is between where we were 3 or 4 years ago and where we are now. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, well, 3 or 4 years ago, we used to make acquisition decisions and we'd look at footprint of the new stores, we'd look at cost cutting, synergies, and we'd make decisions that were going to be value accretive, as you would. He said, but now we do it totally different. Now we spend an hour or two looking at our customer and understanding our different types of customers, what they value, what they need, where they spend their money, and what they're looking to achieve. Then we look at our portfolio and identify business areas where our customer might not be able to satisfy their needs through our offering. And we then look at acquiring businesses that help to deliver more customer value. Now, obviously the economics have to stack up and we still have to hit some synergies and we still have to make sure the network overlap is right and everything, but it's a totally different starting point. And I really believe we've attained a new level of customer centricity just in terms of how we're making those key executive level decisions. And it was a great example of how an organization that's deliberate about this can really drive some change and set themselves up to deliver outstanding experiences that create a lot of value for customers, employees, stakeholders, and the broader community. So there's a few key questions that we like to ask and answer in any engagement, and I thought I'd share these with you. Number one is, who is our customer? What's it really like in their world, and what do they need? And how does the value we deliver, how's it going to help them? Where do we play? There are lots of different strategic options for our business. Where do we play to meet that customer where they're at and satisfy their needs and maybe take them somewhere into the future they didn't even know they wanted to go? What is holding us back today? Are there mindsets and beliefs within our business that are undermining our strategic change efforts? What's our unique story? We need to inspire employees about who we are and our purpose before we even try to inspire our customers. What's our unique story? How do we make it compelling? And how do we craft a narrative that goes beyond frameworks and objectives and engages our people so they want to engage our customer? What does exceptional look like? Across all parts of the journey, what memories and emotions are we deliberately trying to create? And how do we position our organization to do that? How do we activate people? And how do we uplift capability? So if we look at this over a H1, H2, H3 sort of perspective, where are the priorities and what do we need to get right in the early stages so that we can build on it in the future and so that we can accelerate? One of the key questions we love asking at Strativity is, are we on the fastest path to our ambition or to our aspiration or to our value or the value we want to deliver? There are lots of different ways we can go about things, but is the path we've determined going to get us there as quickly as possible? So look, I hope you've enjoyed the session and I hope some of the thoughts, frameworks and questions have been helpful. Once again, my name is Brad Meehan. I've got my email address and phone number up there on the screen. So if you'd love to, or if you'd like to have a chat about where you're at as a business and where you might want to go, I'd certainly love to hear from you. Thank you so much and enjoy the rest of the event.